Hello and welcome to another video tutorial here on understanding body language, liars, cheats and happy feet. It's Saturday and I hope you're all having a good day. So the video I've got for you today is the missing baby in America, baby Lisa Irwin. Now it's big news over there in America. I've been keeping an eye on the case here in Great Britain. And what I'm going to do for you today is to give you my thoughts on some of the interviews that the parents have done by Deborah and Jeremy here. Now, they've done a few interviews over the past couple of weeks, and what I'm going to do today is just break them down for you using something called specific content analysis. Now, I know the vast majority of my videos are done on body language. However, I think it's a good time to do some statement analysis because I think that reveals more information verbally about this case. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do a tutorial on Jeremy Irwin's statements when he was talking about what he did when he came home from work. So I've got two videos for you in question, and I've got a little bit of information on Deborah as well. So we'll start the video. All you need to do for the time being is just listen. You don't necessarily need to read body language too much because there's not that much to read. He's quite very stoic. So just listen to what he says and then try and remember it, and then we'll analyze it later. So here we go.
And it's not possible.
How did you realize that Lisa was gone?
I had come home and Deborah had woken up when I got there, and we talked for a couple minutes, and then I asked her, what's going on? She said, what do you mean? And that's when I told her, lights, the door, the window, and she kind of jumped up out of bed like something was wrong, and that was when I kind of realized that something might be wrong.
So, when you first came home, you didn't immediately realize Lisa was gone.
No.
Has this put a strain
So
on
let's pause it right there and let's watch the other interview that Jeremy did. So we can just rewind it here to his whereabouts. Now, bear in mind, the thing with the truth is, you don't have to remember anything. Mark Twain said that many years ago in the 1800s that when we falsify information, we've got to recall so many elements about our story. But with the truth is, we don't have to remember anything at all. We can just relay it back because it's actually true and factful. So what we're going to do now is a few days after that, we've got another interview by Lisa's parents. Obviously, we've got Deborah here and Jeremy. And what we're going to do now is to listen to when Jeremy's asked a question about what he did when he came home. Listen to what he says now.
4 a.m. when we walked in the door. Jeremy, as we understand, you came home in the overnight hours. What did you find at 4 a.m. when we walked in the door?
When I came home from work, the front door was unlocked. Most of the lights were on in the house, and the window was in the front was open. Obviously, all very unusual. And then I started checking on the kids, checked on the boys first, and then we checked on her, and that's when we realized she was gone.
So let's pause it around right there. So there's a certain contrast in stories between what he did when he got home. If we go back to the first story, what he says there is when he came in, Deborah was awake. They talked for a couple of minutes, and that's when he mentioned the window, the door, the lights, and then she got up, and then he instinctively knew there was something wrong. So then there is no mention at all of going to visit the children or go and visit Lisa. So what he's saying now is his story's altered. If this account had actually happened, he would have mentioned all that in this interview, but we don't see any of that. What's interesting to know is the use of language. So when I say that is about the language he uses to describe what happened.
Then I started checking on the kids, checked on the boys first, and then we checked on her.
Now, her is a distancing languaging term. We use her sometimes to describe people we don't like. However, in this instance here, he should have said we checked on Lisa, but then we realised she was missing. However, he uses the word her, which is indicative of distance.
Then we checked on her, and that's when we realized she was gone.
Now, we realised that she was gone. Now then, that's interesting. You wouldn't not necessarily know she was gone if you just went in there. You would obviously look around the house to see if she's a baby. She could have crawled out of the cot, and she could be anywhere. Now, gone is a term also associated with someone who's died. If I was visiting a relative in hospital and they weren't very well, and I was driving to the hospital, and I didn't get there in time that my relative passed, my family would say, "Oh, she's gone now. You just missed her. She's passed." So, gone is also a term used to talk about someone who has just died. So bear that in mind. We're not making assertions that that's what's happened, but the choice of language there with a distancing language, inconsistent stories, and two use of distancing words, we've got her and gone, are quite interesting. So I shall leave that one with you. So obviously you can see a massive contrast in the stories here. We've got one instance where he went to go and see Deborah in bed, and he wanted to know why the lights were on and the window was open, the door was open, and then she jumped out of bed and there was something wrong. However, in the other story we've got here is when he came in. Listen to the prefix terms he uses.
All very unusual. Then I started checking on the kids.
So what he said there, he says, I started checking on the kids. Okay, so obviously he's gone in. Obviously he doesn't know that his wife obviously is going, well, we presume is going to be in bed, but we don't know that. So we've got I there, and then literally after that story,
checked on the boys first, and then we checked on her.
So then we've got we. So at some stage when he was checking on the boys, Deborah must have come in, because he's gone from I to we. So obviously we're introducing somebody else. But in the other statement, she said that she was in bed. So we're getting contrasting statements here about what potentially happened that morning around about 2 a.m. So that's interesting to note. So let's just move on to the next one here, where we talk about the lie detector. So here we go. So this is now Deborah. So let's listen to this.
He said, "You failed." And I said, "Failed what? What question did I fail?" And then he said, "You failed the one where you know where your daughter's at." And I said, "That's not possible. I don't know where she's at." And I just proceeded to come unglued. Just not.
So what Deborah's saying there is that she's failed a polygraph on the test of, do you know where...
What question did I fail?
So listen.
And then he said, "You failed the one where you know where your daughter's at."
Okay, so she's failed a question on do you know where your daughter is. Obviously she's going to say no, but the polygraph has come that she's potentially lying about that. Don't forget, a lie detector doesn't detect lies, it detects his emotions. So obviously she would have spiked on that particular question by having an increased arousal, which is a sympathetic nervous system kicking in, which would have elevated heart rate, breathing rate, skin conduction, things like that. So she's failed that particular polygraph, but I've also got another interview here, which is interesting. Now listen to what she says here, and I'll listen to the language used.
We called someone and told them, we have more suspects. It seemed like they were going to talk to us in the car, and then they separated us. We don't want anybody to feel like we're angry or we're ungrateful. We appreciate everything that everybody has done to try to bring her home.
Now then, the word that stands out there for me, if you didn't hear
that everybody has done to try to bring her home.
Has done is another term for over. Now then, what a good word would have been is doing. Now, is doing allows for no speculation. So if I was looking for a missing friend and I were on the TV, I would use the word "thank you for all the help everyone is doing at the moment to try and find Joe Blogg." But we don't get that. We get the word "done," which again is a distancing statement.
We appreciate everything that everybody has done to...
So has done means potentially the story's over. Don't forget that done is another word for over. So what we've got there is done, which is a distancing term. We've also got here that she failed the polygraph about her whereabouts. What's interesting to note as well is when we said about this particular statement here.
That's when we realized she was gone.
So she was gone, again, is a term potentially for someone who has died. We've got here a failed polygraph test, so she would have spiked on her sympathetic arousal on that question when she was asked, the whereabouts. And we've got a distancing term here. Don't forget when we said about the word done, not is doing.
We appreciate everything that everybody has done to try to bring her home.
Okay, so what we've got there is potential hotspots for further inquiry. We're not insinuating at all that there's any foul play at all. I'm just picking up hotspots I think potentially might need to be looked at, which I'm sure they are. What's also come to my attention at the moment is a dog has picked up the scent of a dead person next to Deborah's bed as well. Okay, so you can draw your own conclusions into that. Obviously, these dogs are trained to do such things like that, but I did hear a report that the house is 67 years old, and potentially the smell of someone who's died might be someone the previous occupiers or a previous tenant who's passed away in there. You see, so we can't allow for the fact that it could be baby Elisa. We don't know yet. That's what the police are trying to work out. But those are my analysis at the moment based on statement analysis. So just to recap, what we've got here is we've got a certain massive contrast in stories between what actually happened when Jeremy came home. We've got one instance where he went into their bedroom to tell Deborah about the lights and the window and the door. And the other aspects in this story is where he went to check on the children first. That's when he realised we noticed that her was gone and also that she was gone, not missing. So remember that terminology there. So we've got plenty of distancing terms there. We have got a failed polygraph though, which you can see. So draw your own conclusions if you believe the polygraph is accurate. Remember, it doesn't detect lies, it just detects emotions you feel. But it doesn't necessarily detect which emotion you feel. It just looks at internal changes physiologically in the body. So there you go. So that's an analysis done on here. I'm going to keep an eye on this case. I've got a bit of a vested interest in this now as well because I think the statements here are not right, and especially with that new evidence of the dog finding the scent of someone who's died. Draw your own conclusions to that. But I'm certainly going to keep an eye on the case. So I'm not saying that these two are guilty. All I'm suggesting is the statements about using distancing language and a failed polygraph and use of the word gone and done and a mismatch in story are quite significant to the investigation, I think. So there you go. So if you'd like to learn more about body language, then please check out my Understanding Body Language page. I do quite a lot of work on statement analysis, which is about analysing the verbal communication. A vast area of my training has been in body language. However, I'm now branching out into something called specific content analysis, which is analysing the verbal statements and looking at the grammar used, which is a lot more accurate at detecting potential deception than body language. So please bear that in mind. So there you go. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed that video tutorial here on understanding body language, liars, cheats and happy feet. If you've got any questions or queries, please let me know. If you've got any good videos on these two that you'd like me to have a look at or analyse their statements, then please send them over to me. I will gladly have a look. And just for the record, I really do hope that baby Lisa is found and I am wrong about what I'm suspecting. But there you go. So anyway, from everyone here, understanding body language, liars, cheats and happy feet, take care and bye-bye for now.